Last video, I showed you my 42 Amazon KDP books, which netted me around $95. Today, we're going to walk through my exact process, all 6 steps. I'm going to show you how I used to do my Sudoku books using OpenClaw, and then I'm more importantly going to show you how I do it today using Claude. And to demonstrate, I'm going to pick a brand new puzzle book type. We're going to do word searches, and we're going to do grandma and grandpa for the grandparents' day that's coming up in September. All the prompts you'll see me use, the processes, all documented and downloadable in the video. Feel free to grab them and use them yourself. Let's get into it. We're going to break the whole process down in 6 stages. Finding a niche, creating the interior, creating the cover, listing information, publishing it, and finally, marketing it. That's it. That's the business. Most videos stop at hit publish, but really that's where a bulk of the work begins. Publishing a book on Amazon is not the same as selling it. I said that in my first video and I meant it. The 5 books from OpenClaw are essentially theme occasion books like birthday and graduation. And then the one that we're going to be doing today is targeting Grandparents' Day, which, by the way, is coming up September 13th. So, quick aside, plan accordingly for your grandparents. But either way, there's a deadline set. We're going to see what we can do in that space. Quick thing before the tools come out, and that's that using AI to make KDP books is polarizing. Some of you made that very clear in my last video, which, by the way, if you missed it, is right up here and also in the description below. Take a look if you missed it. Look, I'm one person with a full-time job. This channel is me trying to build a few different online income streams in public, sharing results. And KDP is just the first one. So yes, I'm going to use AI to do it. Not because it's trendy, but really because that's the only way the math adds up when you already have 40 hours a week accounted for. That's not to say we hand over the reins completely to AI. We always ensure that every puzzle is real, it's solvable, and verified. Essentially, AI is the printing press, not the author. It's just a tool. If that's a deal breaker for you, genuinely fair. For everyone else, here's the process. After 42 books, I've learned that the niche decision matters more than the actual book a lot of the times. A great book in a dead niche sells nothing. A mediocre book, which frankly you want to try to avoid, but if it's in the right niche, good timing, correct audience, etc., it can sell very well. A quick comment on niche selection, and that's that, I'm touching some of the key points of what has gone into my niche selection, but to really dive in, I could make really an entirely separate video. There's a lot that goes into it as far as researching it or creating a prompt to research it, pressure testing it or having AI pressure test it. There's lots of steps in between that you probably should go through that really would just take up too much time in this video. So I'm going to skip some of that, but cover key lessons and any context related to the books that I've done. So today, the context will be puzzle books. For me, that's been Sudoku books and more recently word searches, but feel free to use this type of process for any type of niche selection. For the Sudoku books that I created, the buyer is not the reader or the user. The cover, the title, all speak to the giver. Gift for Grandma outsells large print Sudoku Volume 3 every time, even with the same interior. So when you're deciding a niche, determine whether you are selling to the person who is going to be reading or using your product or your book, or if it is going to be giftable. They are very different in how you approach them. And then tip number 1, for anything that is themed or very specific occasion based, work 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. You're going to plan in review time, ad spin up, and take into account the early gift buyers. And then there's the honest math. Of my 42 books, the one Father's Day one drove more than half of my revenue. Each book you publish, regardless of whether you know it at the time, could take off, could do well, could produce 50% of your sales. You're almost like taking a lottery ticket every time you publish one. You want to tilt that scale in your favor by picking accurate things in a good niche. But overall, each book you create could be better, and you just don't know it until you hit that publish button. So those are the considerations for today. We're going to go after specific date, September 13th, for Grandparents' Day, when we create these Grandparents' Day puzzle books. They're gift buyers. They're older recipients, so we need large print. So let's make the thing. So OpenClaw is an AI agent orchestration tool that I set up on a virtual private server along with some other technical components that you definitely don't need to worry about. My brother and I created this a few months ago, but I'd say this is not a normal starting point, nor is it something that I think really anyone needs at this point. There's many other easier alternatives. That said, it's worth 30 seconds or a minute for me to explain the interior process that I used because it does translate very well to using tools like Claude. First and very critical step is to configure the actual puzzle type. Now, I needed to do this in OpenClaw, and it honestly took me dozens of hours and probably 30 to 50 iterations to actually teach AI how to format the actual puzzle, but you don't need to do that at all for Claude. You can easily just tell it what you're attempting to do, whether that's word searches or Sudoku or coloring books. And it may ask you a few questions, but no need to actually configure anything yourself. Next, after you've researched and decided on a theme or a niche, go ahead and give that to OpenClaw and jump right into the graphics. So another critical piece that will be to create your interior graphics. The way that I did this was with ChatGPT. So I would use OpenClaw for a majority of the things, but switch over to ChatGPT to actually create the images. And that included the corner images and the fun facts. Then once you have those, I would feed it back into OpenClaw for OpenClaw to actually piece the images and the facts into the actual format that they have for the Sudoku puzzle. Like I mentioned, I want to be clear about this. No need to use OpenClaw. This is how I did it. That said, you can skip some of these steps, but they're still very valuable when deciding how to go about it with Claude. Now, let me show you how I did this with Claude for the Grandparents' Day word search books. You can see in this chat that I really wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go, but Claude suggested building the word search. And it actually went ahead and created the entire engine for producing word searches, similar to the configuration piece I had mentioned earlier for OpenClaw. The initial version wasn't perfect. I also decided that I wanted two versions, one for grandpa and one for grandma, so they could be a little bit more specific. So I essentially just asked for those changes and I got these outputs. As you can see, pretty incredible for the very, very limited amount of information that I provided. Are they perfect? Probably not, but very strong. Then I just needed to do similar steps using the prompts to create the images in ChatGPT, and I asked Claude to combine the two. Overall, super impressed with how little effort it really required and how polished it provided these. So the things that matter, regardless of what tool you're using, OpenClaw or specific AIs like Claude or ChatGPT, the things that really matter are puzzle validity, ensuring that it actually works, that if you're doing Sudoku, that it matches how Sudoku should be played. The difficulty, if you have a mixed difficulty, it should feel that way. If you don't, it should feel whatever difficulty you have it set as. The trim size and margins from the beginning, as well as large print typography. Tip number 2, spot check every puzzle like a buyer's grandma will use it, because she will. So ensure that you're actively looking through when you get to a product where you feel like it's complete. Ensure that it actually is complete and that all of the details look good. All of your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. So if you think about it, covers are really a thumbnail game. Although they matter when somebody receives the book and goes into your listing to look at it, it has to appear very well on a thumbnail size image. Because when you're searching on Amazon, everything is a postage stamp size in search results. Big type, high contrast, instant theme read are all important. One thing absolutely worth considering, especially if you're entering a space that is crowded or has a lot of competition, is that any little item you can add to the front cover can make a big difference. So if your book is Sudoku, but it has fun facts, or if it has jokes or something that is differentiating it from the other Sudoku books, you want to make that very clear on the cover. So ensure that you're including anything on the cover that is going to call the audience that you're looking to sell to, as well as make it appealing or appear different than the others. Creating the cover is a perfect opportunity for AI to ruin your product. AI models still really mangle words. I've experienced this a ton. I've had Sudoku puzzles be 8x9, have the same number in every single box. I could go on and on. The amount of times I've iterated on image generation for the covers is insane. Everything I've shown you so far, the exact prompts for the interior, the cover, the listing, as well as the entire process, I've packaged into a free download. It's in the description below, costs you nothing, takes less than a minute, and it contains all of the exact prompts that I've used throughout the process. If you're going to try this, start with this rather than a blank page. So the writing of the listing and the publishing really could be combined into one step. So either way, I'll talk through both of those now. Now for publishing, there's a number of steps involved, and I'm not going to talk through all of them, but I want to call out some key pieces that you want to keep in mind as you're publishing. One, the book type should be obvious. If you're doing paperback books, select that. But for the book title, subtitle, be sure that you have exactly what you want when you actually publish this. Although you can go back and edit your books after they're published, these are two fields that you will not be able to edit, so ensure you have what you want. Now, in my opinion, there are 3 areas that you absolutely need to get right, and that is the description. You need this to feel genuine and attract the exact audience that you'd like. Next is the categories. These matter a lot. This is exactly where your book is going to appear, and you need to ensure that they are in the correct categories to get the most traffic. And then finally, and potentially most importantly, are the keywords. Take the time to do the research, do the prompting of AI to come up with the exact right keywords for your books. If you've used the right prompts in creating these puzzles, then you should be fine when it comes to the next steps of determining whether it's an 8.5 by 11 or any other size. If you haven't done that correctly, this could be a huge headache. So ensure that you're building your books in the right format that you'd like. Pricing is going to change quite a bit depending on your approach. For example, if you are looking to hit the people that are just looking to buy a book kind of spur of the moment, then your pricing may be a bit lower. For a puzzle book, you may charge $6.99 or $7.99. But what I've found personally for gifting is that people are willing to spend more if they feel like they're getting the value and the exact product that they want. As a bonus, if you do a niche that can be priced higher, like something that's giftable, then the benefit that you will see if you're planning on running Amazon ads is that you can place higher bids compared to those other people who may have similar keywords to you but are selling at a lower price. In my first video, I said that publishing is not the same as selling, and that marketing really isn't optional, and I stick to that 100%. Although some people get organic sales, and including myself, huge majority of people find some success in at least starting with some type of marketing. I think that Amazon KDP ads is the way to begin. So here's the reality. You have a new book with 0 sales, 0 reviews, 0 ranking. Amazon has no reason to show it to anyone. Ads buy you your first impressions and are very critical in my opinion. So here's exactly what I run. 3 campaigns, and they each do a different job. First is an auto campaign, and I do about $2 a day. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. Essentially, Amazon picks the keywords. Most of them are wrong, but every so often it finds a phrase I would never have thought of, and that's worth $2 a day to learn. Second, manual exact match. $3 to $5 a day. These are only the gift phrases I already know convert. Exact match means I'm not paying for people searching something vaguely similar. Third, product targeting. About $2 a day for me. This one puts my book on the listing page of competitor books. So when somebody's already looking at a puzzle book for their grandmother, mine shows up underneath it. Now, the one thing I'd change if I were starting over, when you set a bid, Amazon shows you a suggested range. It's very tempting to take the middle of that range because it feels reasonable. Don't. I always bid at the low end or just underneath it. That suggested range is calculated to maximize Amazon's revenue, not your royalty. On a $10 book, there is not much margin between a sale that makes money and a sale that costs you money. And the bid is where that gets decided. Low bids mean fewer impressions, but they're impressions you can afford. One more thing, because marketing isn't only paid ads. If you watched my first video, I mentioned that I had other ways of pulling an audience potentially via Pinterest and Instagram. So there are those options. I want to be straight with you here. I'm not going to pretend like I've cracked this. So far, I have definitely come out ahead using ads, but I would say I'm not at an optimal stage just yet. All that to say, the structure that I showed you is my best current attempt, and we'll see if it continues to work in September. I'll share the results either way. So quick recap. 5 books have been created for occasion-based Sudoku books and 2 grandparents-based word searches with the targeted deadline of September 13th. So will they actually sell? I genuinely don't know. But either way, I promise, as always, we'll provide the exact numbers here after the fact. Thanks for joining me on this journey. All the prompts process in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment letting me know what other online income streams I need to tackle. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.